All right, time for a visit with, speaking of adjusting on the fly, let's welcome into Sports Talk for another edition of Morgan on the Move. He is Mike Morgan, brought to you by State Farm agent Gary Patterson. For 35 years, Gary's been serving the real estate needs from Lugoff to Lexington and Columbia to Blythewood. Your auto, home, life insurance, and business insurance can all be handled by Gary, who spends countless hours helping South Carolinians with all their insurance needs. And he makes a difference in the community. Go check out GaryPatterson.net today, and he'll go over the best plans for you and your family. That's GaryPatterson.net.
Brought to you by Love Chevy. Act now for springtacular savings on the best selection of new Chevys. I-26 at Harbison and at lovechevy.com. Together, let's drive.
All right, time to welcome in a man who has more sponsors. He has more sponsors than, I can't come up with a cute line. I'll just say he has a lot of sponsors. He is Mike Morgan, Morgan on the Move. Welcome in, sir. How are you?
Well, how are you guys?
We're doing terrific.
Tremendous.
Wrapping up the regular season of college baseball. Can you believe we've come to the end of the line here as far as the regular season is concerned?
I can. Obviously, you know, the situation surrounding Carolina and the importance of winning a game in that series against Tennessee, that's a little more drama than some other teams are going through right now. You know, you've got the race at the top between Kentucky and Tennessee, and Tennessee fans would like to send a letter of gratitude to the Gamecocks for taking 2 out of 3 against Kentucky. That's a Kentucky team that might wind up the number 1 overall seed. And then you have a couple of teams kind of jockeying for position, and then for the first time in a while, there's at least a possibility, if Carolina can't do something here, scratch something here in Knoxville/Hoover, that you could have to sweat out Selection Sunday, and that's obviously what you want to avoid. And a 1 win in Knoxville, to me, would clinch it. I mean, you're in. There's no question about that. But I wouldn't want to go into Selection Sunday losing, 7 in a row. That would be a little bit dicey.
Yeah, I would agree. Got off to a decent start. It's 1-1 against Tennessee up in Knoxville. They're starting Ty Good. They're continuing to shuffle their rotation. Mike, you've been around baseball forever. I don't think you ever want to be in a position as a coaching staff of still hunting for your starting rotation going into the last weekend of the regular season, but that's kind of the position they find themselves in.
Yeah, it's a rough spot to be in. And look, I've covered enough teams, including enough Carolina teams. Most of them, of course, were very good and didn't have your typical weaknesses. But every now and then there's a team that didn't hit real well, and so you keep mixing up the lineup, and no matter what you do, they still don't hit really well. And every now and then there's a team that struggles on the mound, and you can mix and match, and you hope to find the right formula for success with the rotation. But I just think at the end of the day, it's kind of like all the people that were so obsessed with what day Eli Jones starts. The bigger problem to me for the last 3 weeks was that he wasn't getting anybody out. That's not a day of the week problem. Huh. That's a stuff problem. Yeah. Changing the calendar is not going to. It's still the same lineup. Whether you pitch on Fridays, Saturday, Thursday, it's still the same lineup. And you could make the argument it's actually harder in Game 1 than it was in Game 2 where they were throwing them. But no, it's a concern. The lineup, which for a while there was struggling, has come on a bit. I understand Petrie's already hit a home run. I believe that's 20 for him. Mm-hmm. But you've got to get better pitching. If this team is going to make any movement even into the postseason once they get there, you're going to have to find some guys that you feel confident in. We know this team hasn't had a true ace really all year. You don't have to have that. It's nice. It's a luxury you'd love to have. But more importantly, they just don't have starters that you feel confident are going to give you a quality start right now, and that's problematic.
Let's talk about Clemson. They are down at Boston College 8-4. now. Boston College has tacked on 2 more runs in the top of the 4th, including their 3rd homer of the day. And I've been saying for a while, Clemson's pitching looks extremely suspect to me for a team ranked as high as they are ranked. And, I mean, we're seeing more evidence of it here in this game against the worst team in the ACC in Boston College, and the Clemson pitching's getting tattooed. And their defense hasn't helped either. What do you make of them? I mean, are they going to have a long run in the postseason with the pitching the way it's going right now? What do you foresee?
Well, I mean, as it stands now, they're in great shape for a national seed, and obviously that helps. So, do they have – you know what I've noticed, is particularly in the SEC, and this might apply to college baseball in general, I think it's a down year for pitching. If you look at the projected first-round picks, as I did the other day, Kylie McDaniel does a great job for ESPN with that. Kylie's out of Atlanta. I've gotten to know him rather well, and he's pretty spot on. He's kind of like the the Mel Kiper, but with not as good a hair.
Yeah.
And maybe a little more accurate. But if you look at the top picks, you will see Charlie Condon of Georgia. You will see Caglione of Florida. You will see I just forgot his name, the cat for Wake Forest. But most of the top 10 picks, the Kurtz, thank you. Most of the top 10 picks are hitters.
Mm-hmm.
And there's only a couple of SEC pitchers expected to go in the first round. Usually there's about 3 or 4 in the top 10. And so there's been a lot of discussion. Coaches that I've talked to, there's a lot of, call it paranoia, call it whatever you will. A lot of people think the bats are juiced, the balls are juiced. I mean, we're having a ridiculous amount of home runs. But some of it might be just a little bit of a down year for pitching overall. I don't see a Paul Skeens out there. Hagen Smith of Arkansas is terrific. But just think, I mean, last year you had Smith and you had Skeens and you had Chase Burns of Tennessee, who's now at Wake Forest, who just shut down Clemson last week. I mean, it was a stronger year on the bump in 2023 than I think it's been in 2024. So that's a long way of saying Clemson might not be pitching dominant, but maybe this is a year where not many teams are other than Arkansas, and Arkansas can't consistently hit.
And stick your pipe and smoke it in there, Arkansas.
That's right. Damn Skippy.
Mike Morgan on the move here tonight on Sports Talk. And, Mike, you stole my thunder because I was going to ask you about the lack thereof of pitching. I mean, you look at South Carolina's team ERA is sitting around 5. Phil already told you what Clemson's doing or not doing against Boston College. I think you laid it out really well. There's just not a lot of good pitching staffs in college baseball. Does that speak to a bigger problem at the high school level? When you get a kid who's a pretty good pitcher at the high school level, is Major League Baseball throwing so much money at them that they are skipping college to go straight and get ready for the pros?
It's a great question, but honestly, it's really the opposite. I've never seen more kids turn down a lot of money to play in college for 3 years and then make more money when they get out on the other side. And then the kids that play at a high level in college baseball, their trek to the big league. I mean, I mentioned Paul Skeens. He's already in the rotation for the Pirates.
Right.
It wasn't that long ago he was pitching in Omaha. It's a projected ascension for Hagen Smith when he goes in the top 5 out of Arkansas as well. Whereas if you take the 18-year-old at a high school with the lightning bolt of an arm, chances are it's going to be years before he sees the show. It's going to be years of 8-hour bus rides and a lot of non-competitive, somewhat apathetic games that you're going to have to get used to. So I think actually it's the opposite. I really just think it's an aberration. I think next year we could be right back to where we were in 2023, where you've got stud pitchers all over the place that are high draft picks. I just think for whatever reason this year, I mean, Vandy's staff is down. Florida's staff is down. Those are 2 programs that routinely have incredibly deep, talented, high draft pick staffs, and both of them have been less than stellar this year.
So back to your conspiracy theory question, and I think it's a valid one to ask. If it is indeed the case that the bats may be juiced a touch or the balls are, do you think the NCAA may start looking into this a little bit closer and say, look, we don't want 15-10 type ball games like the College of Charleston played today. We'd much prefer a 6-5 sort of pitcher's duel, for lack of a better term.
I'm sure there's somebody on that committee, and I don't know who it is nowadays. You know, back in the day, when they went to the BB core bats in 2011. If you remember, the offense just completely got shut down. And quite frankly, it was a boring game. And Jack Leggett of Clemson led the way to say, okay, we've gone too far here. If we're going to deaden the bats, let's at least liven up the ball. And they went to the flat-seamed baseball, more similar to pro baseball, and the ball travels farther off the bat. And that helped the offense. And I thought the game from that point on was playing as true as it could be. I thought we really hit the sweet spot. We were like Goldilocks. We found the bed. We found the bed, the bat, the ball that was just right. and now I think clearly something is amiss, and I don't know what it is. You know, sometimes you talk to coaches and there's a little bit of paranoia in there. But when you have the offensive productivity that you do right now, it's more than just, oh, guys are lifting weights and, oh, the pitching's not that great. To me, there's something a little more there.
Don't know that we've ever asked you about his career, but as it starts to come to a close, what kind of impact do you think Gary Gilmore has had on college baseball at Coastal? And maybe as he moves on, he was telling us the other night, he's looking at the possibility of trying to get a sort of child cancer day at all three levels and raise money for children's hospitals around the country to try and help battle that insidious disease. I mean, what kind of impact do you believe he's had?
Well, first off, to your last point, it just speaks to what a gem of a human being he is, and that's the most important thing, and that will be as big a part of his legacy as anything else, and how he's affected people in a positive way. You know, as a coach, I can't say enough about what he's done. I mean, anytime you take a program from the lower levels and you put it on top of the mountain and you win a World Series championship the way they did in 2016, I mean, we've had a lot of teams flirt with that. We've had the dark horse teams, if you will, get to Omaha. But to go in there and win it, I don't know if we're going to see that again, quite honestly. That's so phenomenal and so difficult to do that I just don't know with the way the system is set up now with NIL and the rich kind of getting richer. It's going to be very difficult for another program to make a run like that. Fresno State was what, 2008, if I'm not mistaken. That was obviously a major story. They knocked off Georgia. But it was another what, 20 years or so? No, another 8 years. 8 years. Yeah. No, I was told there'd be no math. 8 years before that happened again, and I think it might be 50 years before we see another mid-major win the whole thing.
Speaking of mid-majors having a heck of a year and a coach you know well. Job that Chad Holbrook is doing this year at the college, closing in on 40 wins. Of course, fortunately for them, they're in a league that I would imagine will only have one team advance, and that'll be the tournament champion, so they're going to have to do it all over again next week. But what about the job he's done this year with the Cougs?
Well, full disclosure, I've known Chad for a while. He got the job as an assistant when I was still doing Gamecock baseball games. Have remained close with Chad and on the Inside the Gamecock show each and every weekday from 11 to 2 on the Chief Sports Network.
Cheap plug.
Check your local YouTube, Spotify, all the good outlets out there for a terrific show with Jamie Bradford and J.C. Sherbert. But I digress. We have him on every week, and so we've kind of gotten to cover his journey. You know what I love about it, Phil, and you can appreciate this because I know you've had a lot of regular segments with former coaches on your show over the years. When you get to hear a coach, because every coach has been fired, right? I mean, every coach has had a job that it didn't go the way he wanted it to. And obviously that was the case with Chad at Carolina. But you learn from that, and it makes you even a better coach. And it also makes you a better guy to talk about, the trials, the tribulations, the hurdles you got to clear in order to be successful. And I think he's taken that experience, and it's really helped him at College of Charleston. I'm not surprising that he's doing a great job over there.
Yeah, got a big win today, opening a series against Elon. I've come up with my line. I said earlier, Mike Morgan, who has more sponsors than, I couldn't come up with a wrap-up line to that. Mike Morgan, who has more sponsors than Richard Petty in NASCAR in 1966.
Yeah, he was an STP guy, wasn't he?
He was an STP guy,
Yes,
but he had a bunch
nice.
of others. He had a bunch of others. Those NASCAR guys were loaded with sponsors.
Yeah. Well, I've only got two so far, the great Gary Patterson and, of course, our terrific friends at Love Chevy in Columbia. But
yes,
there's always room for more. I know you suggested some rather scandalous spots. We're not taking on Platinum Plus, Phil. I'm sorry.
That's too bad. No, Teddy Hefner's got them locked down.
Teddy's probably doing remotes there tonight.
He's got a lifetime contract, ironclad.
He's playing the music on Satellite One.
But you know what? There's a place in Birmingham that still has a seat reserved for you. Sammy's.
Oh,
Remember Sammy's? Remember the great Sammy's
know.
in Birmingham? Yeah.
I heard stories about it. I believe that was the only place of its kind that had a security guard the moment you walked in.
That's right.
Just to make sure you didn't see anything you weren't supposed to.
It was a real downer when you walked into Sammy's and saw cops in there with guns on the hips. That kind of took the buzz away from you.
Mike, if we may, before we let you run, I wanted to get your take on the Formula One race you attended, a week or so ago down in Miami.
Did you go to Formula One? Oh, my gosh.
I went to my first ever F1 race in Miami. And in fact, it really was my first race, period. I'm not a big car racing guy, but I had a terrific time. It's obviously different than NASCAR. I'm sure NASCAR fans could tell you how much better NASCAR is. I'm sure F1 fans would tell you. I don't care. I mean, I just love the feel and the sound of the cars revving around the track. I didn't know a single driver. I didn't care. It was a good time. Very good time.
Those cars are really, really fast, aren't they?
Well, they are. When it's F1, you gotta pivot all over the place. You're not just going on an oval track.
Mm-hmm.
So it's to watch those guys do that. I can only imagine how many times I would have run into a wall.
Mike,
amazing.
knowing you as I do, you do kind of resemble a Formula One driver from, say, Argentina, maybe, or somewhere over there across the pond. You have a sort of a European look to you. I could see you climbing in there and dropping it down in fifth gear and taking it hard into the corner.
I would love to do that. I would speaking of sponsors, I'm sure they have more than just Gary Patterson of State Farm and Love Chevy. They got some heavy hitters over there on their cars and probably make quite a bit of money off of those sponsors. And they certainly don't hurt in the female department either. It's not a bad gig. If you want to be an F1 driver, there's worse ways to make a living.
Well, your middle name is Ferrari, Mike Ferrari Morgan. So, you do have it.
Yes.
You do have it in your bloodstream. So,
Mike, the
one
one thing I do know about Formula One, if you have to ask how much it costs to get into the sport, you can't afford to get into the sport.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
It's a little pricey.
Hey, before we let you go, the C's, Mike and I have common enthusiasm for the Boston Celtics, looking pretty good. I don't think the Celtics have even played as a team their overall best game in the playoffs yet, because Tatum is shooting like 26% from three in the playoffs. So it's time to put it all together when we get to this Eastern Conference Finals.
Yeah, for the right to get smoked by the Joker in the finals. No, look, it's a great story, but Boston's got to do a better job of finishing. You got a lot of talent, and there's so much. I mean, the East is not good this year, and the teams that were good are all hurt. So, I mean, they basically have been gift-wrapped a trip to the finals. And I want to see the Nuggets back in there. I love watching Denver play. I love watching the Joker play. That series of Minnesota, to me, has been immensely entertaining. I called a number of Anthony Edwards games at Georgia, and he is obviously going to be must-see TV if you're an NBA fan for a long time to come. But there's no better player in the game if you just want to win. There's no better player in the game right now than Jokic. There just isn't.
Yeah. He is a tough defend, as they say. But I will roll with the C's this year. Got to get it done this year. If Horford is knocking in 20-plus and knocking down some threes like he did last night, makes the Celtics awfully tough to beat. I'm just waiting on Tatum to put it all together. I mean, he has not had – I know he's scoring because he said, look, he's not worried about his scoring. He'll go and get his points. But his outside shooting's got to get better. And Derek White did not have a great series this second round. Had a great first round, but not a great second round, scoring-wise.
That is great Celtics analysis. I think Walter from Goose Creek on line 3 would like to break that down a little further.
Walter, go right ahead. Let's talk some Celtics tonight.
Really playing into that target audience.
Since we don't really have much anything else going tonight, we can talk with Walter about the Celtics. Mike, thank you, and we will talk to you next week. That's Mike Ferrari Morgan joining us here on Sports Talk.
From F1 fame straight to Sports Talk.
There you go.
Peace
Thank you,
out.
Haas. Talk to you next
buddy.
week. All right, Mike Morgan on the move. Tennessee has taken a 2-1 lead on the Gamecocks in the bottom of the third. Hang on a second. Boston College now 8-5 on Clemson. In the bottom of the fourth, Tigers have a runner on second. Did somebody homer? No, Jarrell, a single to left center. Coastal up 5-2, middle of 5. What you got?
I was going to say, for Ty Good's sake, just don't pitch to Christian Moore. He's hit 2 solo home runs. He's the difference in the game right now. He's their leadoff hitter batting .380. And for Mike, just don't put stuff on Twitter you don't want us to see and ask you about the following week. Happened to see a picture of he and his lovely bride at the F1 race, and I thought, well, sure, that'd be fun to find out how much he enjoyed Miami.
Well, if there's anything on Twitter that Mike Morgan really enjoys is Mike Morgan. So you're going to see, you're going to live, what's that word? You're going to live.
Vicariously?
I was going to say vicariously. That's a good word. You're going to live vicariously through Mike Morgan as he travels the world.